Hi, my name is Tam. Today I'll talk to you about the Scorpio sign. This is my first video. The reason why I choose to begin with Scorpio is because I am a Scorpio sun with a Scorpio ascendant. And I think that the sign itself is painted quite negatively. And I just wanted to give my perspective on how I see certain traits that they say Scorpio has, specifically around jealousy, crazy. I will go into the whole emotional black and white thing as well. First of all, I do want to begin with saying or making mention that the Scorpio is one of the three water signs. Water meaning emotions, and I think this is an important thing to remember when we talk about the Scorpio, where the underlying force essentially everything about Scorpio comes back to emotions. Now, Scorpio is ruled by the planet Mars and the planet Pluto. Mars being the god of war and Pluto being the lord of the underworld. It is associated with the 8th house, which represents death, and I think this sums up a Scorpio where we do resonate with the darker side of things. So we begin. How I look at it is, if we look at the world and life, to be able to understand life, we need to understand what death is. And understanding is something that's completely important, like absolutely important to a Scorpio, where we need to understand. And I think this is why we understand a little bit more about things in general, where because we look at the darker side of things, you can't have one without the other, right? And this is, the yin and yang, where you can't, to understand what good is, you need to understand what bad is. And this is very much a Scorpio, and this is why we may, people a bit more magnetized by how we are, because we don't judge, because we accept everyone, because we understand that there is a side that they come from, or somewhere they came from, essentially. How I want to describe a Scorpio is by intensity. I think everything about a Scorpio is intense, is very deep, as we sit in the depths of the ocean, right? Um, and how I like to describe it personally is like a pendulum that swings hard one way and then the other. It is never in between. It's black and white. It's never grey. Never ever is it grey. And this is something that describes, every perspective of a Scorpio and a Scorpio's life, where everything is very hard one way and then the other. And for example, if we look at, being a water sign, it is about emotions and about sensitivity, and we're very soft on the interior, where we may very well come across very cold on the exterior and analytical and logical, very one or the other, right? And when it comes to expressing our own emotions, I think this is very difficult for a Scorpio, where we find it very hard to be able to express our own emotions and how we really feel inside. And how I look at it is, if you look at the brain, the left hand side is where logic and language is, and the right hemisphere of the brain is about emotions and creativity. So if we're only doing one or the other, it's hard for us to, express how we feel by words. And I don't think any amount of words can really paint a proper picture of how we really feel inside. And this also relates to when someone we love or someone we care about is going through a rough time, where our normal process is to understand, because understanding is important to a Scorpio, where we will react by, trying to understand what they're going through, and we'll ask direct, blunt questions, because we want to understand. Because if we aren't blunt, aren't direct, we're doing logic then, right? So logic is to understand, and if we don't do that, then we don't understand the complete picture, and it can come across as, you know, insensitive. People might see it as, uncaring or a bit brutal or a bit, not compassionate even. And, they see us as interrogating, or, that we don't care, or that we're just being mean. That I think people fail to understand that we ask these blunt, direct questions because we want to understand. And we want to understand because we care about the person, and we want to understand what they're going through, and it's very much our natural process. But I think sometimes people, because they're going through an emotional state, they want, it's hard for that person where if they, especially if they want someone that's, you know, going to be consoling and, you know, being, I don't know, stroke their hair or be sad with them, because it's not something that we can do, and the more we care about them, the more harder it is. So I think it depends on how attached or detached we are to the person that's going through it. Now, a Scorpio is a fixed sign, so it's immovable. It's pretty stubborn. You can't really give a Scorpio advice. Um, it's not that we aren't listening or we don't believe you. It's just a Scorpio is represented by, you know, a life of lessons. And this is the funny thing, where we might be a very fixed sign and we might be stubborn, yet we are represented. It's funny because the paradox is we are about transformation in general, where we are represented by three totems. Now, the first phase of the Scorpio is represented by that of a scorpion, and if you've ever seen a video clip of a scorpion, it kind of sits and waits until the very right time to attack or to kill or to sting. And because we are about a life of lessons and we need to understand things and go through things to understand, you know, at times we do sting, and it's for self-defense, to protect our emotions, our sensitive interior, that we do sting. And unfortunately, we inadvertently can sting ourselves in the process of protecting our sensitivity. And the second phase is represented by that of an eagle, where we fly above and we look down, we can see everything and understand everything, but we only swoop to kill or to feed or to attack or to kill or whatever it is. And I know this sounds, you know, when I talk about this, it does sound like, you know, a bit mean, but I don't think it's painted quite correctly, because I mean, it's not to say that a Scorpio isn't mean. Like, some are. Some might take the path of revenge or be vengeful, and, you know, be manipulative and do mean things. But I think it's that of a, you know, a a Scorpio that's not, a younger Scorpio perhaps could more likely do that, um, compared to another one. But essentially, if we look at the sign Scorpio alone, and if we're looking at the Scorpio as a sun sign as well, that it's, you know, it is a water sign and it's based on emotions, and our emotions don't allow us to do that. It's not what you know, a Scorpio is about. A Scorpio is about understanding and accepting, and it's about emotions, right? So, you know, some are, but I think that kind of probably paints a little bit of an incorrect or not so correct picture. Okay, now the third phase of a Scorpio, they say, from the depths of our own destruction, we then rise from the ashes as a phoenix. Some astrologers like to refer to it as a dove, and we do destruct. That's very much a Scorpio, where, you know, you could, you know, tell a Scorpio that if you go down this road, there's a cliff, and you will fall off that cliff. Now, we listen, we believe you. It's not that we don't believe you, but it's because we don't trust. You know, when it comes to understanding, we go by our own logic with everything. We could read something and it could be a factual thing, but we need to, you know, somehow make it logical sense in our head before we completely accept it. And we will. It is about experiences, so we will go down that road and we will be hanging off that cliff, because we go as far as we can go, and we'll, to understand everything. That's why we do it, because it's about intensity, right? We go deep one way and then the other, and we will hang off that cliff, and then we'll decide to go 180, and we'll go back the way we can, the other way, the opposite direction, because the pendulum does swing hard one way and then the other. It's very much a Scorpio, so we do that because we need to understand everything, and, you know, we go as far as we can go to understand. That intensity, we don't do things half-assed. We do it completely, wholeheartedly. Um, okay, the pendulum does swing hard one way or the other, right? Um, and this is very much a Scorpio in a Scorpio's life. So everything is very intense and very deep and very. We don't do anything half-heartedly. We do everything. We commit it to the very limit of everything that we can take. We take everything to the very limit. And going back to our emotions, this is our emotions do run deep, and it might be the arrogant side of me where I think that I understand more about people in general, and because I understand more about people, do have a higher tolerance of people because I understand, and my emotions tell me to accept and understand, and I do. And my tolerance level is a lot higher than I think of the average person, and because this probably explains the whole grudge thing, and they say that Scorpios hold grudges. Well, I don't think that's quite the case. I don't think that's explained correctly, really. Where, if you look at the average person, they have a certain level of tolerance, right? But yet they give second chances. And a Scorpio doesn't give second chances, and because a Scorpio's tolerance level is so high already that, what we accept and what we allow is so much more. We've already given that. We've already given that second chance worth. We've given even more. It's just that we're comparing. If people look in, they think that we're too brutal, we're too mean because we cut someone off because they've betrayed us or whatever it is. Just because we don't give a second chance, but they don't see that we've already allowed for you know more than an average person's second chance. And it is very cutthroat when we do choose to walk away from someone because we take it to the limit, we take that friendship to the limit, and we feel that we are hanging off that cliff and we need to turn around. And we've learned everything we need to learn from that, and we understand everything there is to understand. That's why we go hard one way or the other, and that's our emotions, right? So, and that's very much the whole crazy thing. How they call a Scorpio is crazy, and it comes back to our tolerance levels too, where we do tolerate a lot more than the average person, and we do need to let it go sometimes, and because everything needs a balance, right? And because we understand so much, there's a lot that we have to hold in, and that other people might not understand. And the balance, we are extreme one way or the other, but we can't. Everybody has a limit, and the balance is that we do explode, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think that's something that we need to deal with. It's just that people looking in, just because they're not like this, they're not like a Scorpio, they call us crazy. That we have these outburst moments, and these outburst moments is because our emotions come, because we hold it in so much that because we can't express it normally. It's not that we don't want to, we just can't express it, and then when we do, we are completely illogical about it and irrational because we're just feeling emotions in that moment, and we do need to explode sometimes, and it does build up, and it's like kind of like a volcano, right? And depending on the Scorpio, some Scorpios I see, they explode daily. They could be the most tolerant person at work and nice, genuine person at work, but they go home and then they go nuts, that yelling and rage, fits of rage, and I don't, it does vary between people. And for myself, I probably explode a couple of times a year, but when I do, I go psycho. I go crazy psycho, and I can feel it building, and it could be the smallest thing that tips the scale, but I do explode, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's something that I don't need to deal with. I think it's something that people need to understand, or other Scorpios need to understand about themselves and accept that, because it's not to say that a Scorpio, when it becomes a phoenix or a dove, or when you look at meditation or become a more spiritual person or a higher being, you might be able to find that balance where everything's even and you don't need to do that. Otherwise, if you are a Scorpio, it's very much about these outburst moments and rage moments where you need to let it go, because it's the balance in things. It's the yin and yang. It's one or the other, right? You got the pendulum swings. Okay, now jealousy. I don't think I get jealous as a Scorpio, but I can only talk from my own perspective on this. Um, I don't trust people in general, and most Scorpios don't trust people. And if somebody I care about is going to hang around with people that I haven't sussed out and I don't know if they're a good or bad person, I will get a little bit insecure. I don't think it's jealousy in a typical explanation or typical sense. I think it's more of a protective thing where I know people's minds can be persuaded, and it might be the arrogant side of me, where of the Scorpio, where I think I understand people generally better than the average person, where I know that people's minds are weak and they can be persuaded easily and they can be manipulated. And if I don't know who they're hanging around, the one I care about is hanging around, I don't trust those people. It's not that I don't trust the one that I care about. It's because I don't trust others in general. And this is something that happens when I do meet new people as well, where I do, I am a bit more question, like I do question who they are, what their intent is, if I can trust them. I seek to identify with their, weaknesses because that shows sensitivity. Um, is to protect who I am as well as people I do care about. That I do want to understand that person and where they're coming from and what they're about, and that's why I might stare at them trying to, detect any falseness because Scorpios don't lie. They're truth mad. If anything, they're obsessed with being like with the truth. So we do expect that our interactions, our friendships and relationships are straightforward and meaningful, and they are, honest. Because we hate liars, we hate fake and two-faced people in general, and this is why that we act that way. We do act when we meet new people. It's being protective, and I think that Scorpio is a very protective sign. Now, going into manipulation, I did want to touch on this briefly. It's funny because a close friend of mine recently brought up that sometimes I can be manipulative, and I was very dumbfounded. I was really baffled because I was like, no, I'm not. How can you say that? I can't believe you when, and because I don't realise I'm doing it, and I thought about it, and you know, because we understand people a little bit better than average, where we know how to word things and we know how to come across to make them understand. I think the word manipulation instantly says that we do things for personal gain, and again, it might be a younger Scorpio or like a Scorpio gone bad that would be manipulative, but I don't think that I am purposely manipulative for any type of personal gain. I think because for the ones that do understand a little bit better, understand me a bit better, that know that I am wording things a specific way in a sense that is a bit manipulative um, in general, and that's something that I guess you can't deny. But I guess it depends on how you define the word manipulation. But I don't think it's for bad intent. Again, we are a water sign, right? And it's not something that we would intentionally do on purpose for gain. Um, but this is how I wanted to, address some of these specific traits about the Scorpio, just to, give a bit of light, because I think it's all very misunderstood. And when we look at everything as a whole and everything I said, it does, you know, we do come across, a little bit more secretive in general, and I think it's and we're a bit ruthless in general because we don't let many people in. We don't trust many people, and it's a bit disheartening sometimes when you do let people in and they still paint you, and you could explain yourself as much as possible, but they still paint you for a negative way, and it kind of hurts, and that's probably why that we only hold a few close to us, that we do protect, with all our might. We're committed to it, and it's people instantly judge, and we're people that, because we seem so different and people do judge us, it's probably why we accept a lot of people in general, and people can feel at ease with us and they can tell us certain things instantly because they know that we don't judge them. They just want to understand. And I think being a Scorpio, I hate being, you know, misunderstood in general because it's not easy. It's, you know, every sign has its, you know, pros and cons, but you know, sometimes understanding a lot, we stand alone, and I think we just all, everybody needs wants to be, you know, try to relate to another person, try, you know, identify them, be connected to another person. I think it's our differences that relate us to each other, and not, you know, anything else. I think if you look at defining it and trying to be normal, there's no such thing as normal. And I think the beauty is, you know, is our differences. You can't have one without the other, and it's the yin and yang. It's, you know, you got to understand us to understand yourself, really. And that's why we do connect with the darker side of things, because we know that it is very important. And if I can help anyone understand a little bit more about a Scorpio so we're not misunderstood, that's all I really want. I think it's just hasn't been, you know, given much justice when it comes to explaining Scorpio. But I hope you enjoyed the video.